Mike Radich here, and I'm now joined on the phone by CFFC Heavyweight Champion Daniel Spohn. Daniel, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. Thanks for asking. Daniel, you claimed the CFFC Heavyweight Championship in your last fight back on December 4th when you defeated Zhu Anuanyu, I hope that's how you say his name, by second round TKO. How pleased were you with your performance in the fight?
Oh, definitely. I was extremely pleased and, happy with how everything went. And, this is really exactly what I planned for, and I'm just glad that I got to go out there and execute my game, for sure. And I think you got his name pretty close. So,
What exactly was the game plan going into the fight, and how well do you think you executed it?
Yeah, our game plan was just to, exploit the strengths that we had and his weaknesses, which, were that he's larger than me. He was going to be a little bit slower than me, and less athletic. So what I wanted to do was, be more agile, be more mobile, and harder to, zero in on or try to get a track on. So I stayed very, in motion the whole time, always moving to his right side, or his left, actually, my right, so that I was always trying to stay out of that angle. So I think I executed it pretty well. I was really patient, just waited for my chances and countered, and I got my openings.
Talk me through the finish, and let's go step by step. Let's start with the first part, how it all got started. Because you're a southpaw, you were able to land a right hook on him that got things going, and that hurt him, and then you were able to finish him a little bit later. But let's start with that right hook. Was that just your setup? You were going to go with a right hook and then a left over the top, and you just happened to catch him with the right? Talk me through how you were able to land that.
Yeah, actually, there was a combination right before I landed that one, actually, that I saw the opening for it. So I actually wanted to put a decent amount of speed into that strike, and I was actually ready to throw the left hand, but that's the one I was hoping would sting him pretty good. So we had a quick exchange, and I waited, right then after that. I knew kind of what I was waiting for, so I kind of posted out on it with my hand and tried to bait him in a little bit. And once he took the bait, I just tried to spring on him real quick. And, it surprised me that it stung him quite as hard as it did, but that was exactly what I wanted.
And then when you had him up against the fence, did you know it was over right there?
Yeah, I felt like the end was coming right there. I knew that once I heard him and I had him up against the fence, I knew I wasn't going to stop until I had him down, until he was completely out. This
fight, when it ended, it was a good stoppage timing-wise. Dan Miragliotta stepped in at the right time. Obviously, Zhu was done. You had him, put away. But the way he stopped it, he just kind of let you keep going. He just touched you. He really didn't get in there and break you apart. So you landed some shots after Dan Miragliotta had touched you. I noticed in some of your previous fights, when you get the stoppage and the referee steps away, you have to pause for a little, and then when you notice that the fight's over, then you go to your celebration or whatever. But I've noticed that you always have this little moment where you have to stop yourself and realize that the fight is over. Do you have a problem in the heat of the moment stopping when the referee stops you?
I would say maybe a little bit sometimes, since once you're in there and you get going, you're in once you kind of, get in that flow zone, or where you're kind of, you just go. And, I expect the refs to definitely come in, especially when it's something like that. I expect them to really come in there and stop you and pull you away. That's how because when you're in the middle of a fight, if you just feel somebody lightly touch you, likelihood is you're not going to stop, and, I think that most athletes, when they get to, or most fighters, when they get to that higher level, they kind of get into that zone and they find a way to get into it more. So, yeah, for me, I definitely have to, kind of pull myself out of it.
Did anything surprise you in this fight? When you were studying tape and you were getting ready for this fight, did anything happen in the fight that you weren't expecting?
Not really, actually. The surprising thing was how much he stuck to what he usually does. I kind of expected him to try to throw something in there to change it up a little bit. I know he tried to kick a few times, which I didn't expect, but it wasn't really, the kicks weren't really that proficient. So, no, I wasn't really too surprised.
I'm just curious, why were you fighting at heavyweight? Is it because you were having trouble finding fights at your regular weight class, light heavyweight? Was it because you need to get paid? you're trying to make it back to the UFC, you need to stay sharp, you need to take fights, and you need some money coming in? Is it because you needed a paycheck? Was it because you're moving up permanently to heavyweight, and heavyweight is going to be your weight class going forward? Or is it because of the opportunity? You were fighting for a belt, you were fighting for the CFFC Heavyweight title. Is it the belt? Is it money? Is it the weight class you're going to be fighting in? Is it because you can't find fights? Why exactly were you fighting at heavyweight back on December 4th?
Yeah, it was a little bit of all that, really. I mean, and I'm definitely having a hard time finding fights at 205. So, that's a big part of it, too. I mean, out of necessity, if I want to fight, then I had to go up the higher weight class. And then the fact that it was for a championship belt was definitely even all the more enticing because, it's always good to go in there and fight somebody that's made it to the level of a champion to where you can take that and you can have that throne. So, it's always definitely was a big motivator.
Are you going to stay at heavyweight?
That's kind of, we're going to wait and see what comes our way. But, if I don't go straight to UFC from here, I'm going to see what, kind of where we're at on that. And I'd like to go to light heavyweight again. But, games, the way the game is, whatever's most opportune out there, I'll probably go to.
Do you have a contract with CFFC, or was this just a one-off and now you guys are going to go into negotiation because you're their champion?
As of right now, actually, I do have a contract where I have an obligation to defend the belt. So the only way that contract will be nullified is if I am brought back into UFC.
Do you have any plans, or is it on the table right now for a possibility of you not defending the heavyweight title but going after the vacant light heavyweight title? Is that something that you'll talk about?
That could be a very possible high possibility with where things are going now. If UFC doesn't come knocking right now, then I'd say why not? I mean, try to have both titles. That would be great.
If the UFC doesn't sign you right now and you have to go back to CFFC and fight your next fight under their banner, who's next? Like, is there anyone that they've said, like, hey, we're thinking about matching you up? I know it's still very early. The fight was less than a week ago. So have they said who might be next for you? Should you have to defend the title if the UFC doesn't sign you?
Not yet. They haven't really mentioned anybody yet. I'm sure they probably have their ideas on who they want to step in there, who they want to challenge for it. But as of right now, I don't really have any idea who that might be. So pretty open right now.
Daniel, we'll end on this. It's a little segment I like to call Really Random. That's where I ask you a random question and you give me the real answer. Some of these questions are custom made just for you, and some of these questions are generic ones that I ask all the people I interview. So here's the first question. Superpower you'd love to have?
We'll go with flight. Why not? It'd be awesome to be able to fly.
Favorite movie?
Let's see. Favorite movie? Probably, I'll go with Rocky. Why not?
Movie you've seen the most times?
Movie I've seen the most times? Probably Die Hard.
Favorite color?
Go green.
Favorite guilty pleasure?
Probably having a big cheeseburger right after my fight. That's my favorite guilty pleasure.
You had the NAAFS light heavyweight belt at one point in time, and now obviously you have the CFFC heavyweight belt. Are those the only belts you have?
Yeah, as a professional, that's the only titles I think I've had.
Go-to song when you're singing in the shower?
Not much of a singer in the shower, so I don't really have a go-to on that one.
Okay. Celebrity people say you look like?
For some reason, people say I look like Channing Tatum, so I don't know if I see the resemblance, but that's what I get.
Right now, you're on a 4-fight win streak with 3 finishes. Do you think you've done enough to get that call from the UFC?
I'm really hoping. I mean, we've been going in there with that goal in mind for sure, and my game and my every time I go in there, my whole opportunity is just to go out there and be my best every time and do my best performance one fight to the next. So, I'm hoping that they see what I'm doing and they see what I can bring to their table. I know that they're always looking for heavyweights, and I think Dana White's out there looking for light heavyweights. That's trying to find a fight for me now. So I'm right here. So I'm hoping they come and scoop me up.
The 2 guys that you lost to, Patrick Walsh at the finale, and then Matt Van Buren in the Ultimate Fighter house. Those two guys are no longer with the UFC. Do you think that hurts you getting back there, seeing that those guys didn't have that much success in the UFC and are outside the organization? Do you think that hurts you? Do you think that hurts your chances of getting back there?
No, I think, the matchmakers do a pretty good job as far as, evaluating each fighter for what they can do. And I don't think they fall into the whole, MMA math where it's like, well, if this person beat this person and this person beat that. It really comes down to what skill that person shows each fight. So, I mean, each fight, you're only as good as your last fight in this sport, and that's just kind of how it goes. So I think that that's going to be the main determining factor as far as UFC thinks. So that's the reason I go in there, like I did a heavyweight and plan on knocking somebody out.
When you left the UFC and you went back to training, what were the main improvements that you thought you needed to make to your game so that you could eventually get back to the UFC, and once you get back into the UFC, stay there for a long time? What were those improvements post The Ultimate Fighter and post the finale that you thought you had to make?
Yeah, definitely. The main improvements, especially after my fight with Walsh, was my wrestling. I wanted to have it so solid that it doesn't matter who's there. I'm going to have a strong enough base that I can nullify the wrestling and I can keep it where I want it, and I can kind of control where the fight takes place so I can execute my game plan. So, I mean, that's one of my big focuses, and also my jiu-jitsu. I mean, I've got, I think 4 or more submissions as a professional, but I've always wanted to improve that, and I've really put a lot of work in on becoming, just using all the technical aspect of the game. And I'm a very technical striker, so I want everything else to come in line with that, be very technical in wrestling, very technical in jiu-jitsu. So I think that's the main focus was to, become the best possible fighter in every area.
Do you think you've shown those improvements?
I think so. I think I definitely have. I've got to use my wrestling in some of those fights where I've got the finish. I used my jiu-jitsu. I submitted somebody, I think, in 40 or 45 seconds. And I've got to, at the same time, use technical positioning to earn one of my knockouts or TKOs from those fights. So I definitely think I've given Joe Silva a chance to see my improvements so he can, find me a match and make me a contender.
It's obvious your goal is to make it back to the UFC. Why do you want to fight in the UFC? Is it solely because you had that one taste of the big show, you were there once before, and you want to get back there and have a successful run, get wins, and finish your career there? Is it just because you have unfinished business, or is there another reason why you want to be in the UFC? Why do you want to get back to the UFC?
That's a part of it. But, I think for me, I've only scratched the surface of what I can do, and I want to show, what I can do to the world. I want to be, be one of those people in there that's going to be remembered forever. And I think right now that's the platform, in martial arts, that's the platform where you want to be to show the world what you really are capable of.
Would you say that you're more hungry now than you were originally when you were trying to get in to the Ultimate Fighter and then to the UFC? Would you say that you're more hungry now because you had that taste, you had that one fight, and then you had to go back to the regional circuit? Would you say you're more hungry now since you've had that taste than when you were originally trying to make it there when you were up and coming?
Oh, for sure. I mean, going through, adversity like that and having to fight your way back and climb the ladder and, be where you almost feel like you're there and then drop right back down. For me, that just lights that fire and makes me even more hungry and more determined to be right back where I'm supposed to be and to be the best.
For this past fight, you were training at Ronin Training Center and also Strong Style Fight Team with Stipe Miocic and former foe John Hawk. At this point, what do you consider your home gym?
I would say, for the most part, Ronin Training Center is my home gym. It's where I'm going in there, in and out almost on a daily basis and do most of my training, and I've got a lot of great training partners that come in and put their work in with me, and so it would definitely be considered my home gym of any gyms. But I'm very open with where I train. Like I train, everywhere I can go to find the best talent to get the best work. So I mean, I think that's really crucial when you get to a certain level that you have to push yourself.
Are you a full-time fighter or do you work a second job?
I I actually work a second job, and I pretty much like having two full-time jobs. You know, I mean, you're working full-time, and you come home, and you don't really get to come home. You get to go straight to training, which is, you know, your second job. You go train, and then you'll get up early in the morning before the sun comes up, and you'll do your conditioning, and then you'll go work again, and then you'll go train, and sometimes 2 times in that night. So, yeah, it's a very hectic schedule.
What's your day job?
My day job is I'm a contractor, so I actually work construction. We do just about everything. So, I mean, I'm in nice weather. I'm up on a roof, and, you know, we're doing roofing, and then in weather like starting to get to now, where it's a little cooler, a little rainier, we get inside, we'll do remodeling, and do just about anything you can think of that involves construction. What's
your favorite food?
My favorite food, I guess I would say probably if it's junk food, then probably a cheeseburger or pizza. So we'll go with junk food.
What's your least favorite food?
Least favorite? Try to think. That's a hard one. I like a lot of stuff. I have a pretty wide variety, but I'd say probably mushrooms. Not too keen on mushrooms.
Favorite restaurant?
Japanese steakhouse. That's my favorite kind of restaurant.
Do you have any pre-fight rituals or superstitions?
No. One thing I've worked on, you know, my mental game, strengthening my mental game, just kind of like we do jiu-jitsu or any other aspect of our game. You know, I don't really believe in. I think superstitions are more of a trap. You know, they're kind of anything like that where you have to do this or you have to do that, or this doesn't happen just like this, then it's not going to work right. So anything like that, I've kind of drawn away from. I still have, you know, small rituals. Like I like to kind of be to myself right before, an hour before the fight, 30 minutes before the fight, where I'm listening to music. I'm kind of zoned out. I'm kind of meditating and relaxing to myself. But other than that, I really try to stay away from any superstitions.
In your 12 wins as a professional mixed martial artist, you have 4 wins by knockout and 4 wins by submission. What do you like better, winning by knockout or winning by submission?
You know, I like them both quite a bit because, you know, it's either way you're getting the finish, which I like a lot. But, you know, I think just having a stronger background from striking, I prefer the knockout for sure. I think it's what fans like to see more. It's definitely more exciting to people like that, and Dana White and everybody out there. You know, when you go on and you put a hard fight on and you stop the guy like that, it's definitely the more exciting way to finish a fight.
What would you rather be known as? The best fighter in the world or the highest paid fighter in the world? What means more to you, glory or wealth?
Let's see. Well, you only live once, and, you know, money doesn't really define me, so I would definitely have to go with, you know, the best fighter in the world.
Favorite social media platform?
Favorite, I guess, one of the ones that makes the most sense is Twitter. You know, it makes, you know, you only have a certain amount of characters. You can't put everything on there that you want to. So I guess I'll go with Twitter since it's the easiest one to connect with fans and not have to be stuck on your computer all the time.
Website you visit most often?
Let's see. Probably, I guess I would say, you know, hopping on there on Twitter and Facebook and all that. But I guess I'll go with Twitter probably. Probably the one I'm on there the most.
Piece of technology you can't live without?
I'm pretty good, honestly. If I had to, I could go off the grid and have no problem. So, I mean, it's tempting to, you know, have your phone with you all the time, but, you know, that's the one I probably use the most. But if I had to tomorrow, I'd be good. Be good without any of it.
Outside of fighting, what are your hobbies?
I definitely like to go out and shoot. I enjoy, you know, staying proficient at that aspect. And outside of fighting, martial arts, I wouldn't really consider it a hobby, but it's kind of like a lifestyle to me. I go out and I train, and my martial arts style, we very proficient with the samurai sword. It's a Japanese style, and that's one of my favorite pastimes, to train and stay sharp.
Favorite band and or solo artist?
Metallica, definitely.
What's your porn star name? If you combined your childhood pet with the street you grew up on, what would your porn star name be?
I guess it'd be Buck Holly. Interesting.
What's your rapper name? If you combined your favorite cartoon character with your nickname, what would your rapper name be?
Let's see. Oh, my boys watch SpongeBob, so I'll go SpongeBob Dragon. How's that?
Nice. If you could stay one age forever, how old would you stay?
30 years old. You're old enough to have experienced quite a bit, but you're still young.
What's the best thing that ever happened to you?
The best thing that ever happened to me is when I met my wife. So that was definitely the best. She's changed my life in many ways.
What's the worst thing that ever happened to you?
Let's see. Worst thing? That's a hard one. I've been injured quite a bit, but I don't really consider that the worst thing. I would say probably just losing my dog, actually. My 11-year-old dog. He was kind of like raising a son, so that's probably one of the worst things that ever happened to me.
What kind of dog was it?
Doberman. So.
What's your pet peeve?
Pet peeve, I would say bad drivers.
Let's say you found a magic lamp, and you rubbed that magic lamp, and a genie appeared, and the genie said he was going to grant you 3 wishes. What would those 3 wishes be?
Probably, let's see. That's a hard one to answer, too. There's a lot of good ones on that one. I guess I would say make sure my family is taken care of for the rest of their lives. Maybe to have me and my family live forever. Not a bad one. And I guess, why don't we go with generic world peace? How's that?
Okay. Time period you'd like to go back and visit, and why?
I would say the feudal period of Japan, because that was, almost feel like that's when I should have been around in the first place as a warrior and get to experience and see what truly went on in that time period.
What do you worry about? What's something that keeps you up at night?
Just making sure my family's safe and taken care of. That's the main thing, and just making sure that I don't do anything to make it harder on them. So that's my worry, is just to make sure that I provide for them and that everything they need is where they need it to be. That's my main worry.
Person you look up to the most?
Person I look up to the most, probably, honestly, my mom pretty much raised us as a single mom, and she did so much just to make it for us and sacrificed so much, so I probably look up to her the most.
Best advice you ever given through life, and best advice you ever given through fighting, and who gave it to you?
I'd say the best advice would probably be, just to live your life, to actually live and not be worried about, all the things you're supposed to do and that you're supposed to have and supposed to be, and just to actually live and enjoy living instead of fixating on everything else. And I learned that from my martial arts instructor, Tim McConaughey.
Number one thing on your bucket list?
Let's see. Number one thing right now would be to become a UFC champion.
What's your hidden talent?
Let's see. Hidden talent, I guess most people don't know I'm a really talented artist. That I'm really good at drawing and painting and just about anything to do with art.
Last question. If you could change one thing about the world, what would you change and why?
Let's see. I'd probably, if it was possible, I'd change the effects that we have on the earth as a people. We're kind of slowly killing it over time. So if I could change that, I think that'd be a great change.
Daniel, real quick before I let you go, do you have any sponsors you'd like to thank, and is there anything you'd like to say to the fans?
Yeah, I'd definitely like to thank, everybody that's been there from the beginning with me. I'd like to thank Rona Training Center, because I get so much good work there and good training from everybody, and Luke Zacharich, the owner there, and everybody I've worked with, CJ, Colin, my boxing coach, Josh Williams, he's my head coach, Tim McConaughey. So, everybody that's put time in with me and worked, and my partners and my training partners, Lance Phillips and, Jason Riley, all these guys, they've got fights coming up, and I'm going to be in there working with them in about a half hour myself. So, everybody in my family is, what keeps me motivated. Everybody acts like when you have a family, you're distracted from fighting, but I think, honestly, they just make you stronger. They make you, the best you can be and give you the strong drive. So my family, my wife, my boys, my daughter, so, my mom, just everybody. So I want to thank everybody.
Daniel, thank you for taking the time to talk. I really appreciate it.
thank you for the interview. It was great, and I appreciate the time as well.